A customer brought in a 2015 911 Carrera last month with 47,000 miles on it. Looked immaculate from the outside. Inside the engine, the oil had turned into something closer to tar. The rear main seal was leaking. The coolant was 2 years past its change interval, and the brake fluid tested at 4% moisture content. His quote to fix everything that had gone wrong from neglect was $7,400. The part that got him was this. Every single one of those problems could have been caught with a monthly inspection that takes less than 15 minutes and costs nothing. I have been working on Porsches for over 12 years. I service between 30 and 40 of them every single month, everything from base Macans to GT3s. And the pattern I see over and over is the same. The cars that make it past 200,000, 300,000, even approaching 500,000 miles are not the ones getting the most expensive repairs. They are the ones whose owners do 8 simple things every single month. These 8 checks build on each other, and if you skip the early ones, the later ones will not save you. I am going to walk you through every single one. Number 8. Check your oil level and look at what comes out on the dipstick. You are probably checking your oil once or twice a year, maybe when you remember, maybe when the dashboard reminds you. That is not enough for a Porsche Flat 6 or a Porsche V8. These engines consume oil by design. Porsche's own documentation says up to half a quart every 1,000 miles is within normal operating range. That means between your annual oil changes, your engine could burn through 3 to 5 quarts if you are driving it regularly. When the oil level drops below the minimum mark, you are running reduced lubrication on bearings, cam chains, and cylinder walls. On a 996 or early 997 with the M96 engine, low oil accelerates wear on the intermediate shaft bearing. That is the IMS bearing, and when that bearing fails, your engine self-destructs. A replacement IMS bearing runs $2,000 to $4,000 installed. A full engine rebuild after a failure runs $15,000 to $30,000. I pulled a dipstick on a 2004 Carrera last year, and the oil looked like wet coffee grounds. The owner had not checked it in 5 months. He was 2 quarts low, and the oil was completely broken down. We caught it in time, but barely. Check your oil once a month. Pull the dipstick, look at the color, look at the level. Top off with the correct Porsche-approved synthetic. That is it. But the oil is only the first fluid that matters. The next one can actually damage your braking system from the inside out. Number 7. Inspect your brake fluid level and color. Brake fluid is hygroscopic. That means it absorbs moisture out of the air through microscopic pores in your brake lines and reservoir. Porsche recommends replacing brake fluid every 2 years regardless of mileage. But between those replacements, the fluid can change. When brake fluid absorbs enough water, its boiling point drops. Fresh DOT-4 brake fluid boils at around 446 degrees Fahrenheit. With 3% moisture content, that drops to 311 degrees. On a spirited mountain drive or a track day, your brakes can hit 400 degrees easily. When the fluid boils, you get air bubbles in the lines. You press the pedal, and nothing happens. A brake fluid flush at an independent Porsche shop runs $150 to $250. A set of warped rotors from overheating because your fluid boiled runs $1,200 to $2,800 depending on the model. I see this at least twice a month on cars coming in for brake work, and almost every time, the owner had no idea the fluid was degraded. Once a month, pop the reservoir cap. The fluid should be clear to light amber. If it looks dark brown or has any cloudiness, schedule a flush. Do not wait for the 2-year mark. And speaking of things that break down invisibly, this next one catches even experienced Porsche owners off guard. Number 6. Check your coolant level and inspect the expansion tank. Porsche coolant expansion tanks are made of plastic. On the 996, 997, and even some early 991 models, these tanks crack and leak as they age. The plastic becomes brittle from heat cycling. I have seen tanks that look perfectly fine from the outside, but have hairline fractures that only leak under pressure when the engine is at full operating temperature. If your coolant level drops and you do not notice, your engine runs hot. On a water-cooled Porsche Flat 6, sustained overheating causes cylinder scoring, head gasket failure, and in extreme cases, cracked cylinder liners. A new expansion tank runs $80 to $150 for the part. A cylinder scoring repair runs $8,000 to $15,000. Once a month, with the engine cold, look at the coolant level through the translucent tank. It should sit between the min and max marks. Look at the tank itself for any discoloration, warping, or cracks along the seams. If you see any staining below the tank, coolant is already leaking. The next one is the check that will save your Porsche's handling and prevent a $3,000 tire bill. Number 5. Check all 4 tire pressures and do a visual tread inspection. Porsche sets specific tire pressures for every model, and they are not the same front to rear. A 911 Carrera runs roughly 33 pounds per square inch front and 38 pounds per square inch rear. A Cayenne runs closer to 36 pounds per square inch all around. These pressures are calibrated for the car's weight distribution and handling characteristics. 2 pounds per square inch off on a rear tire changes the car's rotation behavior in a corner. Most 911 models run staggered tire sizes, which means wider tires in the back and narrower tires up front. You cannot rotate them front to rear. That means any pressure imbalance accelerates uneven wear on tires you cannot swap to the other axle. A set of rear tires on a 911 runs $600 to $1,200 depending on the compound. A set of front tires runs $400 to $800. If uneven pressure chews through one side 2 months early, you are buying a new pair ahead of schedule. I had a customer come in with a 2019 Carrera S, and the inside edges of both rear tires were bald. The outside edges had plenty of tread. He had been running 4 pounds per square inch low on the rears for months because he never checked. That was a $1,100 set of tires gone in 8,000 miles instead of 15,000. Check all 4 tires once a month with a quality digital gauge. Check when the tires are cold before you drive. While you are down there, look at the tread for feathering, cupping, or uneven wear. Those patterns tell you if your alignment is off before it costs you a set of tires. Now, the first 4 tips were about things you control: your habits, your schedule, your 15 minutes with a gauge and a flashlight. But this next group is about problems built into the car itself, the ones that Porsche does not exactly advertise, and the ones the dealer makes money on because you did not know to look. If you are finding this useful, hit subscribe. I cover Porsche maintenance and ownership every week, and the goal is always the same: keep your car running longer while spending less. Number 4. Get under the car and look for fluid leaks. This is the one nobody does, but it is the one that separates a car that makes it to high mileage from one that bankrupts you at 80,000 miles. Porsche engines and transmissions use multiple gaskets, seals, and O-rings that all degrade with age and heat cycling. The rear main seal on a 911 is notorious for weeping oil, especially on the 996 and 997 generations. A small seep is normal on a high-mileage car. A drip forming on your garage floor is not. If you catch a rear main seal leak early, you can time the repair with a clutch replacement and share the labor cost, because the transmission has to come out for both jobs. The seal itself is $30 to $60. The labor to pull the transmission is $1,500 to $2,500. If you are doing a clutch at the same time, you are already paying that labor. If you wait until the leak gets bad and the clutch is fine, you are paying that labor just for the seal. This is the check that connects directly to that 911 owner I mentioned at the top. His rear main seal had been leaking for months. The oil dripped onto his exhaust and he thought it was normal. It was not. We caught 3 separate issues just by putting the car on a lift and looking. Which brings me to the one that should have saved him the entire $7,400 bill. Once a month, slide a flashlight under the car or use a mirror on a stick. Look at the bottom of the engine, the bell housing between the engine and transmission, and the area around the oil filter housing. Any new wet spots or drip marks mean something has changed. Number 3. Check your battery voltage and keep it on a tender. This is the one that connects to that $7,400 bill from the hook. The customer's 911 sat in his garage for 3 to 4 weeks at a time between drives. Every time he started it, the battery was low. And every time the battery voltage drops below 12.4 volts, the car's ECU and control modules lose their learned settings. On newer Porsches with PASM, Sport Chrono, and active engine mounts, this causes recalibration cycles that stress components and throw fault codes that cost $200 to $400 per diagnostic session to clear at a dealer. A Porsche battery runs $250 to $500 depending on the model. A Porsche-compatible battery tender runs $35 to $75. If you let the battery drain and recover repeatedly, you will kill it in 18 months instead of 5 years. And the fault codes that stack up from low voltage starts can mask real problems, meaning your mechanic has to spend extra time and your money sorting through ghost errors to find the actual issue. I keep a CTEK tender on every Porsche in my personal collection. If the car sits for more than a week, it is on a tender. Check the voltage once a month with a basic multimeter. You want 12.6 volts or higher. Below 12.4, charge it immediately. The next two are the ones I wish every Porsche owner knew before they bought the car. Number 2. Inspect your engine air filter and cabin air filter. Porsche says to replace the engine air filter every 40,000 miles. I say inspect it every month and replace it when it is dirty, which in most driving conditions means every 15,000 to 20,000 miles. Porsche's interval assumes highway driving in clean air. If you live anywhere with dust, pollen, construction zones, or city traffic, your filter is clogging up well before 40,000 miles. A clogged air filter restricts airflow to the intake. Your engine compensates by running richer, dumping extra fuel through the injectors to maintain power. That extra fuel washes oil off the cylinder walls, accelerating wear on the piston rings. On a Porsche Flat 6, premature ring wear leads to increased oil consumption, which circles right back to item number 8 on this list. See how these connect. An engine air filter for a 911 runs $25 to $65. A cabin air filter runs $20 to $45. The cabin filter does not affect engine performance, but a clogged one forces your blower motor to work harder. A blower motor replacement on a Cayenne runs $400 to $700. I had a Macan come in last spring with a cabin filter so packed with leaves and debris that the blower was making a grinding noise. The owner said it had been like that for months. The blower motor was burned out. That was a $45 filter that turned into a $650 repair. Pull both filters once a month and hold them up to the light. If you cannot see light through the engine air filter, replace it. The cabin filter usually lives behind the glove box or under the cowl panel and takes 2 minutes to check. Number 1. Document everything. This is the one that turns a well-maintained Porsche into a 500,000-mile Porsche, and it is the one almost nobody does properly. Every single monthly check you just learned about needs to go into a log. Date, mileage, what you checked, what you found, and what you did about it. When you sell a Porsche with 150,000 miles and a complete maintenance log going back to new, that car is worth $5,000 to $15,000 more than an identical car with no records. I have seen it happen dozens of times. A buyer looks at 2 identical 997 Carrera S models at 120,000 miles. One has a binder full of oil change receipts, fluid checks, tire records, and inspection notes. The other has a handful of dealer receipts and gaps in the history. The documented car sells in a week. The undocumented one sits for months and sells at a discount. But the documentation does something even more valuable than resale. It gives you a trend line. If your oil level drops a quarter quart every month, that is normal consumption. If it suddenly drops half a quart in 2 weeks, something changed. A new leak, increased blow-by, a worn valve stem seal. You only catch those shifts if you have the data to compare against. I use a simple spreadsheet with columns for date, mileage, oil level, coolant level, brake fluid color, tire pressures, battery voltage, and notes. You can use a notebook. You can use an app. The format does not matter. What matters is that you do it every single month without exception. Every check on this list takes less than 2 minutes. All 8 together take less than 15 minutes once a month. And they cost you nothing except a few paper towels and a flashlight battery. The Porsches that hit extreme mileage are not the ones that got the most expensive work done. They are the ones whose owners paid attention. They noticed the small things before those small things became catastrophic. They treated a $65,000 to $200,000 machine with the same discipline as a pilot doing a pre-flight checklist, because that is what this really is. A pre-flight for a car that was built to perform at a level most cars cannot touch, but only if you hold up your end. If you want to know the 5 warning signs that your Porsche Flat 6 is developing cylinder scoring before it gets expensive, I made a video on exactly that. It is on screen now.